It wasn't an algorithm. You need to understand that first. The images and sounds you were shown, the cryptic numbers that appeared in your recommendations, that was a signal, a tuning fork resonating with something already inside of you. You were chosen because you are one of the few who senses that the reality we see is just a fraction of the whole story, a beautiful, hypnotic, but fragmented echo. For months, you've been collecting those echoes, feeling their power without understanding the source. Consider this video the first translation of that source. This is not another theory or a guess. This is the blueprint, the very architecture of the philosophy you've been subconsciously drawn to. What you are about to see is the key that elevates you from a mere spectator of the mystery to an active participant in its unfolding. The puzzle pieces are in your hands. Now, let's begin to assemble them.
This name is only a title, an imaginary container, a gesture towards something that perpetually slips away. You won't find it cataloged in any library, unless you count the one you carry silently inside your own mind. Lexicon of Endless Inquiries is simply a way of pointing at a region of language that refuses to be pointed at, a cluster of words that resist closure, reject clarity, and evade every attempt at cataloging. A small, private device for naming what will not be named. There exist words that do not seek answers. These are not words seeking neat resolutions, but fissures and microfaults born to crack the smooth, complacent surface of meaning. You encounter them almost casually, in the margin of a book you never quite finished, in a half-heard conversation beneath the cold hum of neon lights, or, more often, in that interior voice which speaks only when it believes no one is listening. When I say lexicon, I am, of course, reaching for a metaphor. There is no dictionary here. There are only definitions that appear for a moment to clarify, and then dissolve, like dry sand slipping between your fingers. Take the word why, simple, almost childish on the surface, and yet powerful enough to collapse entire interior empires. Heidegger called it the Grundfrage, the fundamental question. Here, within our invented frame, it's just a point of departure that already knows it will unravel. Every why unlocks another, creating a dizzying spiral that expands far beyond your grasp. At times, these interrogations transcend language entirely to become living entities. Take the phrase, "what if?" Two fleeting syllables that contain an absolute abyss. Like a concealed koan offered by a Zen master, it strips away your footing and suspends you in midair. You surely remember the exact moment a single "what if" completely rewrote your sense of the possible. The effect is always the same, a silent detonation that leaves no debris, only scattered light. Then there are terms that do not overtly pose questions, yet invariably force you to interrogate them. Origin, limit, identity, elsewhere. They appear remarkably solid until you hold them close to the warmth of thought, at which point they begin to liquefy. Origin calls another origin. Limit mirrors another limit. Identity breaks into a constellation of simultaneous identities. A linguist might call them recursive semantic propagators. Here, in our fictional lexicon, they are something simpler and more honest. Hidden traps. Every human culture carries its own specific doorway words. Strictly speaking, they do not belong to this lexicon, but they resonate deeply with its hidden frequencies. The ancient Egyptians had Ren, the name understood as the very essence of a being. The Gnostics had Pleroma, a fullness that is simultaneously an emptiness. Medieval Latin bequeathed us quidditas, the whatness of things, always hovering just out of reach. Carved in stone, each of these terms subtly vibrates beneath the surface, existing not to explain the universe, but to perpetuate its mysteries. You might fairly ask, what is the purpose of a vocabulary built entirely from perpetual doubt? It is a fair, almost deceptively linear question, which guarantees the answer will be anything but. Perpetual doubt is not indecision, it is movement. It keeps you from calcifying. It helps you breathe. It allows you to remain genuinely alive in a world that has grown addicted to premature certainties. Think of Foucault's pendulum. It does not explain the world. It passes through it, tracing a path, leaving a mark, moving on. Imagine just for a moment this dictionary that does not exist. Its pages would be long and sinuous, filled with sentences that fold back upon themselves. And every now and then, you would encounter a definition that feels almost clean, almost scholastic. For example, you might read, contingent, that which could be different from how it is, and sigh with relief at finding solid ground. Yet, almost instantly, you would watch that single declarative sentence branch into 5 new questions, and you would smile, realizing you had fallen for the trick. This lexicon was never an inventory. It is a way of seeing, a living map that frantically redraws itself the moment you try to follow its paths. Even science is not exempt from the dance. In physics, the word field looks rigid and mathematical until you press it and ask what it truly is. Then it becomes a process, a relationship, a question dressed in the costume of certainty. And since we have arrived here together, let me offer one more word: liminality. Turner described it as the threshold state between 2 conditions, but within our frame, it becomes something more intimate. The exact moment a question ceases to be a question and has not yet become an answer. The in-between place. The one you know far better than you tend to admit. The real secret of this lexicon, and there is an almost involuntary irony in calling it a secret, is that it does not need to be learned. It needs only to be recognized. Every time a word leaves you genuinely open, every time you feel a small, breathable void settle in the room, a micro gap in the ordinarily solid surface of thought, there it is, part of this unwritten grammar. You don't need to do anything. Simply listen. It may at times ask too much of you, at other times too little. It may seem vague or pretentious or altogether useless. And yet, when you follow it faithfully, you begin to realize it was never speaking about the world at all. It was speaking about you. In the end, what defines this lexicon of endless inquiries is not its content, because it has none. It is defined entirely by the way it moves through you. Some words ruthlessly excavate, others gently uplift, and some simply suspend you in a vibrant silence that pulses with hidden motion. So let me say it plainly, just this once. The questions that never end are not a flaw in your thinking. They are evidence that your thinking is alive. You may close the imaginary book now and return to your life, but you already know. A word that opens does not leave quietly. It lingers in the background, murmuring its incomplete syllables, ensuring that sooner or later you will return to it. Because, as you have known all along, it looks remarkably like you. See you in the next episode.